back to another episode of To Whom It May Concern. I'm your host Malak here with my co-host Mariam Khoel and Inara.
Hey,
Hey
salam alaikum.
everyone.
Just as we finish celebrating our 2-year anniversary, we're even more excited that we're exactly 1 week away from Ramadan. It went
Woo!
by so
Crazy.
fast, right? This year really went so fast
Yes.
that we're already back to Ramadan again.
And we didn't even do much.
Yes.
A year of COVID, now Ramadan, subhanAllah, where time goes.
It's so interesting, subhanAllah, that last Ramadan, we had just begun experiencing COVID. So it was kind of the first of us being like in lockdown, no tarawih, no azayim, like losing kind of the social aspect of Ramadan. And now here we are experiencing our second Ramadan in COVID, but we're kind of sort of coming out of it again, right? So things are trying to go back into normal. Like, I think even masajid are hosting tarawih. You just have to like register, first come, first serve type of thing. But people are trying to find some kind of normal back and celebrate Ramadan the way we usually do.
That's what I always loved about Ramadan, that there was a community aspect to it. I feel like when I was younger, that's the one thing. I'm not saying that I didn't love Ramadan for so many different things, but when I was in like my early 20s / like late teen years, I'm like, oh my God, Ramadan's coming. We get to go out for suhoor and like go out to Taraweeh and do Qiyam Layls and just like all the azayim. So much of the social aspect is what made me love Ramadan so much when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, thank God for COVID, but I feel like COVID made me take a step back from all that and then focus on what Ramadan was truly about. And now that this year I can get a good balance of the social aspect and the truly spiritual aspect of it.
I noticed that too. Last Ramadan, I noticed that we weren't having the same stressors as all the Ramadans before. And the stressors of who are we going to ask them? When are we going to have the dinner? Who are we going to? Can we make it to this? Can we switch around our schedules? I feel like that had taken up so much of Ramadan. So then last year when there was absolutely no gatherings, it's like, okay, we're just eating at home with the family, same thing. And we didn't have to worry about that. We didn't have to stress out about that. I do still think that there is a lot of good that comes though with those dinners and with those gatherings. So I definitely did miss it.
Yeah, it's like so much of the year you're working on so many other things and there's so much that takes up your time, like work, like school. So it's nice that Ramadan comes and it's like I get to have azuma with my family. I get to see everybody I may not have seen for a while and just like catch up with them in like such a beautiful space.
Yeah.
Where we're all kind of like celebrating.
One thing I love about Ramadan is the fact that subhanAllah, even though you and your family members probably all have a bunch of different schedules, but when Maghrib hits, you see everybody at the table, everybody's together and sitting, and I love that family aspect. But the azumas just gets too much. Like, you have a lot of family members and there's constantly azumas. Like, I think a part of Ramadan is also to reduce the amount of times you socialize. So the community part in regard to Taraweeh and doing that communally is beautiful. And I think even like offering your house and, feeding other people who are fasting is also beautiful. But I think there also needs to be some sort of like boundary to that. I think hanging out for like 5 hours, there goes the night spent in socializing and not in like dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for me, as much as like I love the azumas, in the month of Ramadan, I like them to a minimum, like 2 azumas for the month. And for the most part, I'd like my spirituality. Yeah, because hanging out, because I just feel like it's lost time. You're just sitting, socializing and eating. And if that time was used to like really remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if we had like a lecture going on or some sort of benefit, I would love it. But I just feel like, I think it just ends up being 5 hours instead of like 1 hour or 2 hours, eating together and then going. And I just feel like it's time wasted in the month of Ramadan. And those conversations may not have like much value to them. It's kind of like vain talk, or sometimes it may lead to gossip. So for me in the month of Ramadan, I personally prefer to like limit those gatherings to like just a couple and really focus on myself. And in the community aspect, I would like it to be more focused on ibadah.
I see your point. I just don't agree with it. Like,
yeah,
it matters on your intention. Like, if your intention is you go in, it's like, I haven't seen my aunt for how long, and I'm going in and I get to talk to her. And then if you see the conversation shifting into like gossip or vain stuff, you can shift the conversation. You can dictate where it goes. But I don't think it's a waste of time or it's something that like takes away from how much ibadah you're doing in Ramadan. As long as you go in with the right intention to it, I think it can be very beneficial.
Which is why I said limited. It's not something.
Two out of 30 days?
Well, you're seeing the same individual, so I think two, like that's every other week, or yeah, like bi-weekly. I think that's fine. And it's not like you've never seen them outside of Ramadan. I mean, maybe it's different for you all, but that's how I personally feel. Like because here's the thing, usually from like 8 to 5, 8 to 6, you're working, right? You're in school, you're doing your schoolwork. So that nighttime after like you break your fast is usually the time where you have the time to do ibadah. And then if I'm taking that time to socialize, I personally don't feel as spiritually rejuvenated. And so for me, I would love to, hang out with my extended family and check in with them, but just twice out of the month.
I mean, it makes sense. It's not like what you're saying is crazy, because we know that there's only 30 days and it is super limited, right? Like Ramadan, honestly, after like the first week or the first 10 days, let's say, Ramadan feels like it's flying when you're caught up with so many different things. And like you said, usually most people are working or in school. So already majority of your day is kind of shot. So when you do have those few hours at the end of the night, you do want to like make ibadah, you want to pray extra rakat, everything definitely. I do agree though with like Mariam and Khuwaila. I do like the Azaim. I do enjoy it. I feel like it's fun to host it, but I think that if you're also families that do host many Azaim, maybe just limit the time you're spending there, right? So like literally go pray Maghrib, eat dinner together, maybe spend an extra half an hour to an hour, and then everybody goes their separate ways, so that you are eating with people, you are exhibiting the ibadah of like feeding other people that are fasting, but at the same time, you're not dedicating so much time maybe to just hanging around or doing nothing or whatnot.
I mean, before Corona, when Tarawih used to be a thing at the masjids, it was really nice to come, have an iftar with people, and then like when Tarawih time starts, everybody goes to Tarawih, and then you like pray, and then you could have the rest of the night to focus. At least that's how I like my Ramadans to go. So you can see two different schedules working, and both of them are fine.
But like, I think the point is that anything you do can be turned into ibadah. So like, even if you're working or you're in school, putting the right intention, you can get ajr for it in Ramadan. And it's not like you're not praying throughout the day. So you can still add extra rak'at throughout the day at work. Like when you're praying dhuhr, when you're praying before you pray asr. So like that stuff is still doable. Just because the entire day is not set for active worship doesn't mean that you can't switch that intention to become worship.
Yeah. No, you're right, Khuwaila. It's just different.
It is different, but in general,
different than sitting at home and reading Quran at your leisure, or like listening to a lecture or taking your time. Like it is a little different. I understand what you're saying, like clear your intention, and inshallah, regardless of what you're doing throughout the day, you're getting hasanat for it, but it's just like every day we go to work, every day we go to school. So you just think that when it's Ramadan time, you want to dedicate a little more time to your spirituality or like doing something different. It's just like changing it up a little.
Yeah, which you can still do. But in general, like Islam is a very communal religion. And there's a reason why going and becoming a monk and just dedicating your own self to worship is haram, because you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to interact with your family, your neighbors, your community. You're not supposed to just stay and be by yourself and worship.
Although like in Islam, we do have our, the community aspect is constantly being highlighted, especially like, you're encouraged to worship in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of Jum'ah and do like that, and you get more rewarded for that. But at the same time, it's also limited, especially in the month of Ramadan. Like there's the whole last 10 nights where you're supposed to do i'tikaf if you could, right? So where you're isolating yourself and really devoting yourself in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there needs to be a balance. And I feel like in the month of Ramadan, it's really excelling and trying your best to improve your spiritual health. And I personally think when it comes to socializing, that should definitely go into a minimum.
Yeah, we have overdone it for sure the past few years.
I think COVID has definitely put things into perspective though. Like Ramadan last year was significantly different to what we're usually used to. And Ramadan this year, even though I think we're trying to get back to like normalcy, it's still going to be completely different, right? Not everyone can be at the masjid at the same time. Not everyone can have that same experience. I'm sure people are still not having azaim the way they used to. If they are, it's really just kind of immediate families or maybe one family at a time. Like people aren't trying to be excessive. But I know this one family, even before COVID was ever a thing, the wife used to tell her husband, like, listen, you can have azaim all year round and I won't argue. Like, I'll never have a problem with it. But during the 30 days of Ramadan, we're not having any azaim. Like, she would just say, like, yeah, all year round, I'd be more than happy. And they still, like, they'll have his sister over for dinner or something small, but it'll be like they all get up for tarawih, or it's not expected that it's going to be like a whole thing, you know, there's not excessive cleaning, it's not excessive hours spent cooking. Like she just kind of said that from the get-go, which I think is so like, it's so funny because when I heard that, I was like, no azayim in Ramadan? How?
Yeah.
So it is like, it sounds like a foreign concept, but I mean, a lot of people do it. Like they want to dedicate as much time as possible to their ibadah. But speaking of that, and speaking about dedicating so much time, what are kind of some things you guys are trying to follow, or some tips you guys follow going into Ramadan?
Well, I think the first one should be done before Ramadan. Because I was listening to this lecture, and it says if you make your intention before Ramadan to do things during Ramadan, if for some reason you don't make it to Ramadan, like you die, or let's say you get into a sickness before Ramadan and you end up not fasting all Ramadan, then you had that intention before, and inshallah you'll be hasibed on the intentions of everything you wanted to do during Ramadan. So I think prepping beforehand and making the niyyah that you are going to do those things are super important.
Having the intention, and why not start now? So preparing yourself right now with the goals that you want to do and getting started on them, so that when the month of Ramadan does come, you're not just getting started, but rather you're increasing those habits. So you're doing more and you're getting already that habit. So in Ramadan, you're not really slacking and then picking up, and then before you know it, Ramadan's over when you actually started that habit. So I think the month of should help you start preparing and also start acting on it. And I'd say that to myself first. Do that. But I listened to also a lecture by Sheikh Omar Suleiman, and something that he said to do before Ramadan happens is one, to be very introspective. So like think about, become more self-aware of your actions, right? So what are some actions that you might want to stop? So like what are some bad deeds or sins that you've been doing that you want to stop? Or what are some good deeds that you want to continue to do or increase in the month of Ramadan? Because Ramadan should be a time where you increase your ibadat, right? You continue to do more good than throughout the year, right? So what do you do with that? What are some things that you're going to put in place to make sure that you hold yourself accountable to making sure that you do them, or maybe telling other people to hold you accountable so that you do make them happen? So what are some things that you're going to put in place? So I guess that, we have a week to really think about what are some of our habits, what do we want to change, what are some things that we want to do and increase in, and then create a plan to make sure that you have a successful Ramadan.
I also heard a lecture by Omar Suleiman, and he was talking about how the shaitan, right, is going to be locked up during Ramadan. So what do you think he's going to be doing the week before Ramadan or the 2 weeks before Ramadan? He's going to be going hard, you guys, and he's going to be trying to create all types of problems for you that will trickle into Ramadan. Don't let that happen. Know that if you have an angry thought, I actually started listening to it and I was like, I was going to have an argument with my sister about the dumbest thing. And then I'm like, wait, this is the shaitan trying to win before Ramadan. No, here, Shahid, have this. Do anything you want right now, because I'm not going to let him win, because normally I wouldn't argue about that. It made no sense to me. I was confusing my own self. Yeah, so it's like after I heard that, I started catching things where it's like, don't let him win you before Ramadan. Every day is a battle between you and him, and you got to come out on top.
Yeah, that's really smart, man. That's a really good point. Yeah, I've never heard that. Like, I've never thought about that. But also something else I think that helps to prepare for Ramadan is that if you plan on listening to lectures, or if you plan on reading the Quran or tafsir or whatever it may be, I find it really helpful when you choose a program that you're going to join beforehand. So like, I know Omar Suleiman did the Angel series. I know there was a program, I believe it was by Qalam, where every night they read juz'ah of the Quran with tafsir and reading. So like, just also giving yourself a schedule, or just mapping out the things that you would be interested in taking part in, I think definitely helps, because then you're not like scrambling and everybody sends 300 links on WhatsApp every night about what you should be doing, and it gets so hectic, and when you're trying to take part in everything, you really end up taking part in nothing, and you don't benefit from anything. So just kind of figuring out what you want to take part in also kind of it adds an ease going into Ramadan.
All good advices, people. When I'm like listening to all of you, I feel like a very important thing to just keep in mind is what comes out of our mouth, because I feel like a lot of times that can take us to heaven or take us to hell. So whether it's negative things coming out of your mouth, so let's say gossip or just talk that's like of no benefit, or even if it's cursing, if it's music, just trying to cut down on that. And then increasing, let's say, tasbih. So like, let's say you're walking to your car, rather than just doing nothing or like talking on the phone for no reason, you can just say like afkar. Instead of arguing with the siblings, you can just have better conversations, things that bring you closer to Allah.
They don't have to be these huge grand gestures. They can be small things. I like that. Small steps, Khwaila, to the bigger.
Yeah, and I feel like, especially with all the azumas we were talking about, like having just like things that are not important take up a lot of your time. It's just better to switch it up.
Or make healthier choices this Ramadan. Like for instance, I like to read. I enjoy reading a lot. So this Ramadan, instead of reading books that are nonfiction or whatever, I'm reading books that are focused on Islam and teaching me things. So I picked 4 books already that I'm gonna go into Ramadan hoping to read. So if you like music, if that's something you like, maybe switch over to nasheed. If something's too hard for you to just cut off completely, try and just take the healthier option, you know?
That's good, Mariam, actually. That's a great way to silver lining to some bad habits that we may have. But while Khuwaila was talking about staying good, this just came to mind. I was on Instagram the other day, which we should try to decrease in Ramadan, right? Social media usage. But and I read something where someone had posted like, when I go for a walk or when I go out or something, and I'm saying tasbih or I'm saying my like du'a rukub when you leave the house, or saying ayatul kursi, they read it out loud so that everything around them can testify on the day of judgment that they had said that tasbih or they said that adhkar or something like that.
That's
so
like a life hack.
So like the past few times, like when my mom and I went to New York and we'd be walking down the streets, I'm like, Subhanallah. She's like, what are you doing?
Like now they all can testify.
Yeah, on the day of judgment. So like things like that also, if you're doing good, I feel like it's always a lot more fun to also do good with others too, you know? So like if you're reading the Quran, find a buddy that you're going to keep each other on track with the Quran. If you're trying to meet a tasbih goal, you know, it's just when you involve other people can also be fun too. So if you have a sibling or a parent or something that can be on track with you, it would also be really good. And then inshallah, the hasanat will be doubled and tripled in Ramadan.
I know last year, me and my family tried to memorize the 99 names of Allah. That was our goal. And it was really fun to just mess with my parents and pretend to be their teacher. I'm like, oh, you didn't memorize your things this week? I have to call your parent. One of the pieces of advice that I heard this a long time ago and I started doing and I feel like really makes a difference is, you know how we ask for forgiveness, right? We do a sin, we ask for forgiveness for that sin. Asking in addition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts hate in your heart for doing that sin. So make that sin something that you begin to hate, like add that on. And I feel like it really does work. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make you start hating that sin that you used to enjoy doing.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. So it's like, please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for, I don't know, let's say arguing with my sister. We're in a theme today. Please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for arguing with my sister. Please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make me hate arguing with my sister and make her laugh, make me feel good inside. Stuff like that. And it honestly works.
Wow.
Yeah, it seems like such a simple like thing you would forget, but asking Allah to put hate in your heart for the action that you used to like doing, or like for example drinking or listening to music or whatever it is that you know you enjoy doing, because you know sins sometimes they're presented as like desirable things. So
and even the opposite of that, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let you love the things that he loves, right? So even like bring me closer to the deeds that you love. Maybe we're slacking or we're being lazy, and just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, revive my heart to love the things that you love and get me to do it too. And when I'm doing it, make me, so like salah, maybe we're more mindless, but it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make that action more beloved to me and more wanting. So I think even the opposite of just like telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let me love the things that you love or the good deeds you want me to do. Put that in my heart. So I think even likewise, like the opposite is also beautiful.
Yeah. I feel like this month is supposed to be dedicated to the Quran and then the Seerah of the Prophet, but especially the Quran. Just like reading as much as you can, memorizing as much as you can, and going through like the tafsir, and I guess just establishing a relationship with it.
I mean, like you said, Khoila, it is the month of the Quran, right? So it is the time where we're supposed to a lot of time, if not all your time, to understanding the Quran and trying to live the Quran. But it is important we don't just memorize the Quran or we don't just read the Quran, but we really try to understand it and implement it, right? So a lot of time, of course, there are different levels of, you read, you try to understand, there's tafsir, but I think the highest level is when we actually try to carry out the Quran and we try to carry out the stories and the lessons, and that's being a walking version of the Quran. I think is probably one of the truest definitions of what Islam is. So if you can even just choose like one theme from the Quran, one story, one lesson, and really try to make it a part of your life, I think it would be honestly amazing.
Going off of that, Malak, there is this journaling method that I found, and it's super hard to do. I will preface it with that. But once you do it, because it takes you so much time and like effort into it, you get so much more out of it. And it's, you open the Quran, you pick a surah, and then you take the first ayah, you write it down. You write down the tafsir of it. You put down when it came down. So what is the context of that specific ayah, what it means, and then how are you going to apply it to your life? And you're writing all this down. So this means, this is the tafsir. This is when it came down. This is what Allah wanted me to get out of it. And this is how I'm going to apply this ayah to my life. And then you go on to the next ayah. And it is so difficult to do.
Yeah.
I did it only for like an asr, okay? And that only has a couple ayahs in it. But it took me hours and hours. But all the lessons that I've learned from it, I still apply to my life now. So we don't want to just, I feel like so many times we say, yes, study the Quran. And people just think, okay, I'm going to speed read through it just so I can say that I finished it at the end. But you don't really get the true depth and meaning of it and apply it to your life.
That seems like more of a long-term life sort of goal thing rather than just something that, like, maybe you can start it up in Ramadan, but it's not something that you can definitely finish within the month.
Oh, no way. You can't finish it probably within a year. Like, it takes very much dedicated time. But I think that's a good thing to start during Ramadan. At least take 1 hour a week to just sit there and do that, because then it could bring the ayahs you're reading more to life. Even though there is nothing wrong with reading through the whole Quran, just to read through the whole Quran. Like, you get hasanat, make your intention to do what you can. But you should also, let's say if you read the whole Quran last year, this is a way to level it up.
Yeah, I like that, Mariam. I like I like a couple of things. One, I think when it comes to like, how do you read the Quran and then translate it and then make it more applicable to your own life? Like, what is Allah trying to tell me, and then applying it? I think that's so important. And I think with that, like, maybe you can't do the whole Quran, but maybe pick a surah that is doable in the month of Ramadan. Maybe you want to do a surah that has 30 ayat, and every day I do one ayah, one translation, the meaning and the context, and then how does that apply to my life, right? So you could do that. You could make a big goal and then bring it down to the month of Ramadan. I also liked how you said to level up the thing that you did previously. So I think, what are some things in previous Ramadan that you did that you knew that you were successful in? So what are some best practices that you learned or you did in the month of Ramadan previously, and how can you do it again this month, but also it? Like, how do you increase it? And since you were successful in it, most likely you'll be successful again, but now you're just challenging yourself a bit more. And so I think that's also a good point.
And oftentimes when we go into Ramadan, especially myself, we kind of set ourselves up with all these really big goals that we kind of forget about the really small things too. So I know one thing that always I found so nice was like one of Mariam's goals last year was just to do one thing nice every day, like one kind thing every day, or make someone smile every day. But even like the basic things, like trying to practice extra patience, right? Not having so much attitude. If attitude is something that you express, if you're always sarcastic, being a little less sarcastic, like just those really small, subtle things also. Sometimes we don't think that they'll add up to much or they won't make much of a big deal. But I mean, in Ramadan, everything's multiplied, right? So doing the simplest things, putting in even the smallest effort into making someone else smile or making a difference in someone's day can have the biggest reward, right? Sometimes it's just all about the intention, regardless of what the act is. So just focusing on your daily things, just trying to be like a happy person, more forgiving, like hanging on to less anger, just those things in general can also make the world of difference, especially in Ramadan, right? Like you can start then and inshallah carry on those tips and those behaviors a lot longer afterwards. And even if now we're saying we try to implement these good deeds now, because I mean, we have exactly 1 week before Ramadan. So we want to start clearing our intentions. We want to start getting in that mood. For all our coffee addicts, start weaning yourself off of caffeine. Like, right? Those are all things that we should be
Already feel
preparing
the
now.
headache.
I know.
Already.
I'm thinking like the day's so long at work, no lunch, no snacking, no like, I'm like, man, my God. I'm already
We'll be
thinking of
fine.
ways. Yeah. So just like those things also, I think taking those into consideration, they make your month a lot different.
And I think I mean, to summarize, I feel like you're kind of highlighting character building, right? How do you build your character in the month of Ramadan? And I think a motivator to know that you are capable of doing this is the mere fact that you are fasting for so many hours and you're refraining from something you do so habitually, right? You always are eating, you sleep a lot, right? Or so how you're disciplining yourself in the month of Ramadan. And so likewise, because you're able to stay away from food and water, then know that you're also capable of also controlling your anger. You're also able to become more patient. So even character building is possible because just the fact that some things that we're in need of, you're able to refrain from means that you're capable of also building your own character as well.
One thing I did want to mention is giving sadaqah, because I feel like in Ramadan we're always like, I have to give a big amount, and you don't feel like you have this big amount to give, or if you don't give a big amount, then what you did means nothing, and that's not true at all. We minimize our own actions and our own things, and I feel like that's a thing from the shaitan. Even if you give 25 cents a day and you give it consistently every single day, it will add up to an amount, and you don't know even what it will add up to, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you for that, and especially for that consistency, and especially for that niyyah. You give what you can. It doesn't have to be like $10 million in order for it to mean something. For all the students out there, you never know what small deeds that you overlook you get all my native deed references. I actually seen glass in the street the other day, and I walked past it. Yes. And then I remembered the Native Dean song in the music video where he walked past the glass and then someone hurt themselves. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to go back and pick it up, don't I? I was like, how do I know this is the small deed that's going to get me to Jannah? Okay. We're going to do
good. That's awesome, buddy. In general, though, when it comes to spirituality, people have highs and lows. So maybe last Ramadan you're feeling it, this one you're not. Or maybe now that you're kind of getting yourself more into it, you're trying. I think the big thing is just you're trying to do as best as you can. So even if you don't feel very spiritually ready for Ramadan, you do little things, like even if it is just picking up glass, or even if it is reading a few ayahs from the Quran, just doing something that keeps you tied to the religion and keeps you tied to a relationship with Allah.
Do the extra like sunnahs and nawafil stuff. Focus on the obligations, because those are the things that really count and bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you're not doing your obligations, then the extra stuff isn't going to bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cares about our obligations. So making sure that you are doing your 5 daily prayers, like that's an obligation. Don't be like, I'm going to do qiyam and then miss fajr. So like that just doesn't make sense. You're not able to, if you end up doing qiyam and then you fall asleep and don't pray fajr, then maybe there needs to be a change in that schedule. So your obligations should be your number one focus. So making sure that you really focus in on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you have to do this, and building off of that.
Also, prepare for the middle 10 days. Because I know the first 10 days we go strong and hard, and the last 10 days we get the rebirth of energy, but the middle 10 days, we all look like zombies from The Walking Dead. Okay, plan for it. plan for it and let's succeed in it this time. Because I'm always the 10 days in the middle gets me to not ever finish my goals at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm ready for the 10 days. My
Yeah,
goals,
yeah.
what are your guys' goals this Ramadan?
Honestly, there's a lot that I need to work on.
Yeah,
I don't
there is.
I don't think I've had the time to explicitly sit down and like list my goals for Ramadan, even though we are a week like close to Ramadan. It is. I have it, like,
A lot of them are tied
but
to
I
what
think,
we discussed.
yeah, just like making sure my obligatory, like my prayers are all in, like reading Al Quran, making dua. I'm always usually pretty good about qiyam, like being able to go to sleep and then wake up for qiyam, and fajr. But less, I mean, this Ramadan I'm working, so I don't like. I'm hoping that I'll be okay. Last Ramadan I did have school, but you know, school was at home, so it was on your own flexibility, your own time. But inshallah, I'm hoping to carry out some of those like good qualities I get, or good habits that I usually implement. And then just like basic things, decreasing the amount of music I listen to, increasing tasbih, like things of that nature.
Not getting into arguments with like siblings and just having, I think just speaking less or speaking, like having good things come up.
That's a
Mhm.
good one, Quayla. Speaking less and having good things come out.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't think about that. So that's a good
Mhm.
Silence is not a problem, guys.
I am going to build off of one that me and my family started last time, which is the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And every day I'm gonna try and learn one and learn what it means and learn how to implement it in my life. So I feel like that's achievable. I can do
Yeah,
that.
I think so. One a day isn't bad,
Yeah,
Maria.
Yeah, and we can make a dua.
Why not?
I'm gonna make a dua with that name. It's
Oh, also to not overeat.
You can tune into our episode with Mubaraka to better know
Yeah.
how to
eating in
not
Ramadan.
yeah, and how to eat so that you're nourished for the next day, but you're not so exhausted for the rest of the night to, you know, make ibadah, and that the next day you wake up and you don't feel gross, maybe from all the oil and the butter and the ruz and the bread that we do tend to indulge in. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, you should not be gaining weight in the month of Ramadan.
You guys, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yes, inshallah.
Ramadan is
And
coming,
don't
and we just came up with all these goals, and I like want to start now. I 100% still have 4 days to make up though. Still,
You have to do that.
Yeah.
that means I can start now.
You shouldn't be fasting the 3 days before Ramadan, so girl, you better get on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting on it tomorrow.
And don't forget that Ramadan and like fasting is that one deed that's dedicated to you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So I feel like we always circle back to that, but that is super, super important, right? Everything that we do, all the salah you make, all the tasbih you make, and it's emphasized that siyam is between you and Rabbna, right? It's strictly between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People don't know what you're doing when you're not around them. They don't know how you're acting. They don't know if you're eating or not, or whatever you may be doing, whatever you're praying or not. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is paying extra particular attention in what you're doing in Ramadan and how you're taking advantage of the time. So please do take advantage of the time. And while you're doing that, also don't forget that for us, Ramadan is like Christmas all month, right? Like this is also a festivity as much as it is like spiritual. So take advantage, decorate if you need to be excited, put up lanterns, put up lights, you know, like making also those desserts, making ka'ik, like that's all part of the beauty of what Ramadan is. Some things you can't even do the rest of the year because it only feels right in Ramadan. So just like we take advantage of going hard and being spiritual, at the same time, also really take advantage of the blessings that come with Ramadan, the happiness that comes with Ramadan, that just spiritual feeling that everybody is feeling during Ramadan. You know, make sure you like really delve into that, because we're never guaranteed Ramadan and you never know, you know, if you'll see the next Ramadan or how you'll be next Ramadan. So I think it's also important that as hard as we go to be spiritual and be hard on and strict on ourselves, we also enjoy it to the best of our abilities, inshallah, and we do make the most of it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of To Whom It May Concern. If you don't already, you need to subscribe to our channel so you're notified every time we drop a new episode. Make sure that you give this video a big fat thumbs up. You check out all our previous YouTube videos and you tune in for everything we have coming. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Modern Skeps. We're always looking for new topic ideas at themodernskeptics@gmail.com. Sincerely, The Modern Skeptics. P.S. Ramadan Mubarak from The Modern Skeptics.